Civil War Digital Digest. I'm Will. We're not in our usual locations today. We're actually out at the end of a campaign event. I'm with my friend Silas. Thanks for coming in today, Silas.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for bringing the idea. Silas saw Coffee a la Zouave. It's episode 7 from volume 1 last year, and sent me a message and said, Will, I absolutely love it. I have a source that I want to talk about. Can we do an episode together to talk about coffee made not in a semi-permanent or a permanent camp, but coffee the way fellas had to deal with it on campaign?
That's correct.
And so, whose idea are you bringing forward, Silas?
That was Osborne Oldroyd. He was in the 20th Ohio, and he was in the Vicksburg campaigns.
So, well, we'll get things ready here. Let's listen to what Osborne had to say in his own words out of his diary.
The coffee should not be put in the water before it boils. At first I was great enough to do so, but soon learned better. Being compelled to march before the water boiled, and consequently lost my coffee. I lost both the water and the coffee. It takes but about 5 minutes to boil a cup of water, and then if you have to march, you could put your coffee in and carry it till it's cool enough to sip as you go. Even if we halt a dozen times a day, that many times a soldier will make and drink his coffee. For when the commissary is full and plenty, we may drink coffee and nibble crackers from morning till night.
So, okay, well, there we have it. A veteran telling us how to make coffee. And the first thing he said to do, Silas, is?
Boil the water first.
So, and that's a big deal. Why?
And on a soldier on campaign, if he were to go and just put the beans in first and then put the cold water on the fire, you may get called to go back up on the march in 5 minutes or in not time sufficient to actually have boiled coffee. But if you went and you boiled your water and you get called up, it's just slightly boiled water, or it's not right quite there, it's not a problem. But if you have got your full boil down, now you can just add your beans, and as you're marching down the road, your coffee's actually boiling as you're marching.
So we've got the water going. Let's talk about the beans. What do we do with those, Silas? I assume you're going to want to keep that bayonet close by for your method.
Oh yes, it's a soldier's multi-purpose tool. What I do is I take my ration of beans, which are right here. The amount of beans, since I've done it many times in this particular cup, this is a 10-ounce cup.
And what does he want to do with this coffee?
What he would do is, a real advantage of boiling the water first is now you put it on and you can walk away and you can do this. It frees up you from being a slave to the fire. But what you do is pour your beans into a little bit larger container, and you use the soldier's multi-purpose tool, and you grind the coffee. There is no really good way to do it, and it's a little slow, but it does get it done.
And you're going to have a couple of minutes to do this because while Silas is doing this, the water's boiling. So what are you looking for in the beans in particular? Is there any, where do you like to have them at?
Well, you want to have it fairly coarse. You don't want to get the big fine grind in there. You will have some beans in there, but really you're just trying to break it down. A coarse grind is a good way to describe it.
If you're using modern terms, or just get the beans broken up would be another way to say it.
Because you're trying to increase the surface area of the water to the bean. That's really the key. If you just leave it as beans and throw it in, the water surface, or the surface of the bean, it's just not going to be sufficient water on it, and you're not going to get very good coffee. A lot of the essence of what you want is still locked inside that bean.
So while the coffee's ground and the water on the fire, Silas was just looking at and finds there's just a few bubbles coming up. It's just getting to the point of a boil, which is where you want it to be, right?
That's absolutely correct.
So as Osborne told us, boil your water first in case they call you back to march. Don't waste your coffee.
Yep.
We've got boiling water. What's next?
All right. Next thing in, add coffee to the water. You want to give it a good stir.
And that's just to get all the coffee wet.
That's right. And this is the area where people make a big mistake. They will leave the coffee on the fire. And the problem with that is when it does reach a more full rolling boil, it will boil over and cause a great mess. But why this is done in this particular way, it's come to a boil, you got your beans in there, and at that point you can actually lift it up and pull it off the fire, and you can just let it sit adjacent to the fire, and that's all it needs.
And so now now we're waiting. How long do you wait?
I wait no less than 7 minutes.
Okay.
And Yeah, it's what will happen is over time the coffee grounds themselves they'll work their way down in the least amount of time possible. That's 7 minutes. 8 or 9 is even better. And while that's going on, if you're sitting here by the fire, you're losing an opportunity. This is an opportunity to go and get your pack, get everything ready to go, so that your coffee is ready, your stuff is all ready, now you can sit and be a soldier and relax.
And to make sure we're clear, this 7 minutes isn't something that Osborne wrote to us. This is something that, since you use this method, whether you're on your kitchen stove at home or whether you're on a campfire, this is something years of experience has taught you.
Absolutely. And what Old Roy would do is he would go and he would boil his water and he put his beans in, and if he was called, hey, it's time to get back up and march, that's great, because now he's got his coffee and he's away.
Excellent. Well, we'll come back in a couple of minutes and finish this up. Well, we've waited the 7 minutes, and now's the time for the last step that Silas uses, so why don't you go ahead and tell us about it?
All right. So now I've got my strainer of sorts. That is my old knife, and I will pour the coffee and the strainer out in this manner. And if you really want to have even better coffee, you could strain it again into another cup.
And again, that's a function of you and a comrade and how much table furniture you actually happen to have with you on the march that time.
That's absolutely true.
That's Coffee on Campaign. Osborne Oldroyd wrote it down. Silas, thanks for bringing it to us.
Absolutely.
As a quick review, boil the water first by itself. While it's boiling, grind up your beans. If you haven't been called to another duty, then you're able to put the coffee grounds in. Silas recommends waiting about 7 minutes, but get that coffee going. Don't let it boil over on the fire. Strain it out. Enjoy yourself a cup of coffee. For the Civil War Digital Digest, I'm Will. If you've liked the episode, help us out. Hit like on it and subscribe to the Civil War Digital Digest. You'll get updates on what's coming next.